Showdown over Bharat Jodo Yatra. After COVID protocol alert, BJP asks, where's the mask? Congress calls it an attempt to derail Yatra. Will Rahul mask up? Big focus on Newstrack.
Rahul Gandhi and his Bharat Jodo Yatra are set to enter the national capital, and the political fight is escalating. Day after, the health minister shot off a letter to the Congress MP warning him about not following COVID protocols. The Yatra has been red flagged yet again. This time, the BJP is asking, shouldn't Rahul mask up?
Rahul Gandhi on the road with thousands of Congress workers set to enter the national capital on Saturday. And the Union Health Ministry has a question for them. Where are your masks? The Bharat Jodo Yatra is in the eye of a storm after Health Minister Mansukh Mandaviya's letter to Rahul Gandhi on Wednesday asking him and other yatris to follow COVID norms or stop the walk. The BJP has also claimed that Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu, who joined the Yatra on December 17, tested positive for COVID 2 days later.
ये बहाना है भारत जोड़ो यात्रा को बदनाम करने को और डिरेल करने को। जब भारत जोड़ो यात्रा दिल्ली में प्रवेश करने वाली है, प्रधानमंत्री और दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री इमरजेंसी मीटिंग लेने लगे और मास्क पहनो ये सब आदेश देने लगे, तो जब केस पहले निकले तो कुछ उन्होंने कहा नहीं।
When the chief minister of a state is found positive, who was walking with Rahul Gandhi, then only the health ministry said one has to be careful.
The Congress is crying foul. It is accusing the BJP of going ahead with its political campaigns while putting curbs on others. The reference is to BJP's Jan Akrosh Yatra in Rajasthan, which continues without a stop.
हमारी जन आक्रोश सभाएं यथावत रहेंगी। ये जरूर है कि कोरोना की सावधानी हमें रखनी है, कोविड के प्रोटोकॉल का पालन करना है और इस लिहाज से इन सभाओं को हमें आगे तक इसी तरीके से जारी रखना है।
Satish Punia defied the Health Minister of India, said, I will continue with my Jan Akrosh Yatra. This is the kind of discipline this party has. Let them try and stop us. We'll also tell them, we'll teach them a lesson.
Sources in the Health Ministry say it is keeping a close eye on the Bharat Jodo Yatra. They claim the Yatra could face action if norms listed by the ministry are flouted. The Congress, though, has assured the Yatris will mask up.
कल मैंने देखा प्रधानमंत्री जो कभी राज्यसभा में नहीं आते हैं, वो आए थे राज्यसभा में, बैठे थे सिर्फ दुनिया को दिखाने के लिए कि वो मास्क पहने हैं। तो मैंने भी आज सुबह तय किया मैं मास्क पहनूंगा और सब भारत यात्री भी पहनेंगे।
The Congress, though, has assured the Yatris will be masked up. The Congress is adamant it will go ahead with the Yatra. But will Rahul Gandhi give in and mask up? With Paulami Saha and Supriya Bharadwaj in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Is the political class guilty of hypocrisy on the question of political yatras? Parties want to push ahead with their yatra, but want to find a way of cancelling their opponent's yatra. The BJP calling for Rahul Gandhi's yatra to be suspended if they can't follow COVID protocols. But there's a Jan Akrosh Yatra going on in Rajasthan, multiple rallies happening in places like Nizamabad, in West Bengal. Joining me on this broadcast, Shazia Ilmi, national spokesperson of the BJP. Anshu Laviji joins us from the Congress. Dr. Sanjeev Bagai joins us. He is the chairperson of Nephron Clinics. Now, you've got the Jan Akrosh Yatra, which the BJP is taking out in Rajasthan. First, the state president Satish Punia tweeted to say we are suspending the yatra. Later, just a few hours later, he says that no, the yatra is not being suspended because there is no COVID advisory from the centre or from the state, and therefore we'll just go ahead. In Asansol on the 14th of December, the BJP does a big rally. In the Vivekanand ground in Tripura, the BJP is doing a big rally. In Nizamabad, the BJP is doing a rally. And yet somehow you seem to have a problem with Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra. The health minister wants it suspended if they can't follow COVID protocols. Is the party guilty of hypocrisy? Shazia Ilmi.
Not true at all. The Jan Akrosh Yatra in Rajasthan was indeed called off, and and even it was never resumed. And the fact of the matter is that they were told to follow the COVID protocols, and which they agreed with. And not just that, even in Tripura, the rally that you're talking about happened much before the threat loomed large, and a global advisory was out there for everybody to see. So I don't think and even where Bharat Jodo Yatra of Shri Rahul Gandhi ji is concerned, nobody asked for his suspension. There was a letter, and a very polite letter written, that any efforts at any congregation must be looked at with caution, and we should be more discerning. And the fact of the matter is, COVID protocols must be maintained. So this I say not just as a spokesperson of a party, but as someone who would want the new variant of COVID to be restrained and not to impact more people. So it is more to do with that than anything else. And you can see that the Prime Minister follows what he talks about, practices what he preaches. You saw the Parliament session, how whether it's the speakers and President presiding in the chair and the leaders, they were all masked up. Even the Aarti that was performed in Banaras, I was watching some visuals, they took care. So it's an important message to give at this point of time.
Anshul
It is not so much
Abhijit,
about
the Prime Minister
BJP
leading
and
from the
Congress.
front,
And
he's being cautious, careful, he's masked up, Piyush Goyal masked up, other ministers in Parliament masked up. Rather than being reckless and saying we will bash on regardless, we will not follow protocols related to COVID because it's very difficult to do so, the Prime Minister trying to set the right example. It's better to be careful now than to have a crisis upon us and then end up in hospital.
Rahul, the Prime Minister just had a rally in which there was a huge gathering. We don't know how the crowds came, whether they were forced to come or they came on their own, but he had a huge gathering in Tripura a couple of days back. We wonder when the advisories were there then. We wonder about the advisories. Have they been given to other BJP, state presidents? There are a number of religious congregations which are going on in Gujarat, for instance. There are festivals that are going on. You have big cultural jamborees. You have the G20 jamborees in 20 different cities. Have advisories been given to them? The intent of this letter to Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Rahul, make no mistake about it, beyond shadow of doubt, has been purely political. Can the BJP do anything except be political at every stage?
Shazia Elmi, respond to this. In Rajasthan, your state president says there's no advisory to us from the state government or the centre. No, one second. Why is there, if for example, rallies are to be banned, why isn't there an rally, why isn't there an advisory for the Jan Akrosh Yatra which the BJP is taking out in Rajasthan? Why is only one advisory been issued to Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra?
Of course there is. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I should bring you up to speed just today. It is the health minister who had a meeting with, a virtual meeting with all the health ministers, all the state health ministers, BJP and otherwise. Not just that, we're seeing exactly what is being done, right from the health minister to the health secretary, and of course starting from the Prime Minister's office. So I don't know, I think when advisory is given to every citizen, obviously BJP karyakartas and rank and file should follow it in Rajasthan as well. I mean, just because Rajasthan is ruled by Congress, it does not mean that the BJP karyakartas there should not follow the advice given by the Prime Minister that tread with caution. This is a serious matter and has nothing to do or little to do with party politics. And more importantly, I think it's very presumptuous and rather delusional of the Congress party to ascribe this kind of importance to themselves and to Bharat Jodo Yatra, because it's done precious little good for the party itself. In fact, Union Minister Prahlad ji has said today that, please go ahead, be my guest, follow the protocols and take out the yatra, because wherever Rahul ji goes with the yatra, they lose elections. He didn't go to Himachal, and Himachal did well. He went to Gujarat, and we saw what happened. So I think it's like neither accurate or very smart to even make that kind of accusation, especially in a very serious matter, the context of
the political back and forth aside. I want to go across
looming large
to Dr. Bagai for his sense of a yatra like the Bharat Jodo Yatra. Given where COVID stands in our country at this moment, is there a rational need for the yatra to be suspended in your view?
Hi, good evening, Rahul. So I think let's just purely base our discussion on medical facts.
Correct.
The entire basis of all what is happening in India, in most parts of the world, is because of the story which has come out from China, which was exactly 72 hours back. It was storming on Twitter. We saw videos. The strains over there are very unique. They are called as convergent mutations, which are very different from the earlier original Omicron. Let me just bring everyone up to speed. Omicron split into BA.1, BA.2, and what we are seeing now are the sublineages of that, which is XBB. We are seeing CH.1, we are seeing BQ1.1, and we are seeing the dreaded BF.7. What these mutations have done is they are binding on to the human cells even quicker, making it more contagious. Why is it more contagious? The R0 has moved from 5 going up to 10 to 18.6. That means within 10 layers of 10 days, one person can infect more than 18, and if you in binary fission you count it in a period of 10 to 15 days, you will have more than a lakh of people infected. That's not fair for the country. We also know what has happened in Delta. We can't let our guard down at the present moment. Any yatra, any political gathering, any social gathering for that matter, any other religious gathering is definitely not a potential but a real super spreader event. Super spreader means even if one person who's asymptomatic or with mild infection, subclinical infection, can infect the entire crowd in a period of few hours. We also know that this virus can linger on in the air up to 9 hours. It can travel up to 60 feet. Now, for any politician to say that someone is scared, therefore they are saying to stop it, will be very, very reckless and very irresponsible. Let's just face it, we can't let the Indian citizens suffer the way we have in the last 2 years. I think what the government is doing now is appropriate, it is correct, it is medically accurate, it is better to be safe than sorry. Let us be totally, comprehensively ready, prevent for every eventuality, prepare for the worst but hope for the best. And in the end, I would like to say, India is in a much better placed position than China ever was. Sorry, and the simple reason is that Chinese vaccines to begin with, even initially when they were launched in the international market, was substandard. We know that. Now with the immune escape mechanism of the new substrains of Omicron, the efficacy in their vaccines has dipped close to around 20. A large segment of the population is unvaccinated or partially vaccinated with a substandard vaccine. Sudden opening of restrictions, you have exposed an entire community, entire province.
Anshula, Vijit, respond to what Dr. Bagai is saying. The R0, which is the rate of spread of infection of this particular variant of the Omicron, much higher than what India dealt with, and the fact that this variant seems to demonstrate traits of escaping the immunity that we've built. That is very serious reason for everyone to be wary. So this is not about politics. This is about, as Dr. Bagai says, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and you're better safe than sorry. Therefore, you can't dismiss this as the BJP doing politics. There's a very real reason for us to be on guard.
Absolutely, Rahul. I mean, sound medical advice, which is coming from Dr. Bagai, which came earlier from Dr. Ganga, absolutely sound advice is good. I mean, nobody's undermining how vicious this virus is. I mean, we've seen through it in India. They didn't order vaccines. We saw the devastation in the second wave. We saw the differential pricing, all the politics over it. We saw the havoc it caused. Nobody's undermining it. In fact, we were the ones, Mr. Rahul Gandhi's statement, it was prophetic when he said that, listen, the government is not doing enough, it's there. He used the metaphor of the tsunami, said this is the calm before the storm, so be warned. We were the ones who suspended in the last election, if you remember, on the behest of this government, the Election Commission has an 8-phase election when the second wave was imminent. And we said, no, we're not going ahead with this. This is too great.
Election, we are talking about here and now. And we are talking about the
you can't say
no, but Shazia Elmi, the point for the BJP to respond to. But Shazia, just one second. Anshul, one second.
No, there is no point.
Shazia, the point for the BJP to respond. One second, ma'am. Hear me. My point is, no, just listen to my question. Shazia ji, just listen to my question. The Prime Minister's messaging, the messaging of senior ministers, spot on. But on the ground, in Rajasthan, in Telangana, in West Bengal, in Tripura, your leaders don't seem to have got that message. They're not listening to what the PM is saying either. They're doing their own rallies and yatras.
So the Tripura rally happened before the advisory in India was set into motion, one. So let's not just spread canards because it's factually incorrect. Two, the Jan Akrosh Yatra that you just spoke about earlier, I talked about it. It was called off. And if some BJP workers are not following it, they're clearly wrong, and I would not say go ahead with it. Similarly, I would like to say that the letter and what the intention behind the letter written by the Health Minister to Rahul Gandhi ji at the behest of 3 other MPs was just follow the COVID protocols. Who is vaccinated, who is not, who, and how can we contain it, and is there a distance being...
Why didn't you send it to the Prime Minister's office?
Has a similar letter been sent to the Prime Minister's
office even now? Does the Prime Minister know that he's not supposed to go and there shouldn't be any rallies? Have the other BJP
you really are deluded. Something is not all right with your reasoning. Something is not all right with you and you're thinking Prime Minister's office is the one issuing this advisory. It is the Prime Minister on top of it. It is the Health Minister of India. It's a concurrent subject, which is why he had a meeting with the state health ministers. Do you not get it? What is so difficult for you to comprehend? You know, you have got a health crisis. So, it's not about political points at all. You are scoring political points because you're thinking that have a virtual meeting or go ahead. No, not at all. I think you're really deluded. First of all, because Bharat Jodo, everybody knows it doesn't really help the Congress. It doesn't really harm the BJP.
You may be skeptical of the Bharat Jodo. That's neither here nor there. The success.
We're not discussing at this moment whether the yatra is a success or not. That's not the point of this debate. But Dr. Bagai, where does COVID go from here in your view? Given what's happening in China, given the fact that this strain seems to be escaping immunity, given everything that you said in your initial answer, where do you think we're headed next?
Okay, so just basing our discussion within the Indian subcontinent, I think India is well placed. We need to push on 2 things, apart from the masking and taking precautions. And I must say that any political gathering, religious gathering is a big no-no at this time. We can't change the past, but we can learn from it. If we make our mistakes habitual, then we are wrong. We will suffer. Indian citizens will die. We can't allow that to happen. Going forward, I think it's important to understand that these sublineages will continue to evolve. There are more than 623 Omicron sublineages. Some are more nasty and some are little lesser. But the fact is, it's a balance between contagiousness, that means transmissibility, and lethality, that is pathogenicity. So more contagious it is, more it spreads, ultimately more number of people will get very, very sick. Our vaccination drive needs to be enhanced on 3 fronts. Get the boosters running immediately. Within 30 days, with the infrastructure India has, we can easily do it. Point number 2 is get the bivalent vaccine as an enhancement for a heterogeneous trial, a heterogeneous regime. And point number 3, the intranasal is going to be our wonder vaccine as far as the Indian subcontinent. Quick, easy to administer, very, very cheap. It protects the nasal barrier in terms of mucosal immunity. It protects the lung because it gives you T-cell resident immunity, and it pushes your memory recall immunity back. So on all four fronts, it works very well. I think India is safe, but I will still give my message: precaution, precaution, precaution.
Shazia Elmi, Dr. Bagai, Anshula Vijit for joining me on the Newstrack. Thank you very much. Mansukh Mandavia, the health minister, chaired a meeting with state health ministers on the COVID preparedness. India is on alert. The strategy is to strengthen surveillance with a focus on genome sequencing and increased testing. States have been asked to ramp up hospital infrastructure. Here's a look at India's COVID battle plan.
India is on alert against any spillover from China, where the Omicron BF7 variant is having a free run. In a major step, the centre has approved Bharat Biotech's nasal vaccine against COVID as a booster dose. This will first be available in private hospitals. Citizens will have to book slots on CoWIN to get these boosters.
वैक्सीन की सबसे बड़ी खासियत ये होगी कि ये ब्रॉड स्पेक्ट्रम इम्यूनिटी प्रोवाइड करेगा किसी भी व्यक्ति को लोकल लेवल पे इम्यूनोग्लोबुलिन ए आईजीए दोनों का निर्माण होगा शरीर में और इससे वायरस से लड़ने की क्षमता बढ़ेगी सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट स्टेप है जो एंट्री पॉइंट है वहां पे ही वायरस को ये न्यूट्रलाइज करेगा.
The government is also keeping an eye on flights from abroad, especially travellers who have China travel history. Random COVID tests for 2% of travellers from outside has started. The Union Health Ministry is set to issue a new advisory for COVID-19 in view of the festive season. Sources say masks won't be made mandatory. Government will stress on precaution doses. Currently, only 27% eligible people have taken these boosters. Earlier on Thursday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting and took stock of the COVID-19 situation. Stressing on precaution doses for elderly and vulnerable groups, the Prime Minister urged people to follow COVID-appropriate behaviour, including wearing of masks. Cautioning against complacency, Modi also advised states to ensure readiness of necessary infrastructure. Many states are already on their toes to stop any spread.
दिल्ली में फर्स्ट डोज और सेकंड डोज लगभग 100% लोगों को लग चुकी है. प्रिकॉशन डोज जो है वो बहुत कम लोगों ने लगाई है, केवल 24% लोगों ने लगवाई है. मेरी हाथ जोड़ के सब लोगों से अब निवेदन है कि दिल्ली सरकार, आज ये मीटिंग में भी मैंने सबको कहा कि हमें दोबारा एक एक्सरसाइज करनी चाहिए कि घर घर जाके प्रिकॉशन डोज लगाई जाए.
कोविड को लेकर जो भारत सरकार की जो गाइडलाइन आई है, जो जानकारियाँ आई हैं, हम लोगों ने भी तय किया है कि जो जून में हमारी गाइडलाइन जारी हुई है उसी के आधार पर काम करेंगे और जागरूकता और सतर्कता दोनों पर विशेष ध्यान देते हुए जो एक तो वैक्सीनेशन हमारे यहाँ लगभग 100% हो चुका है. बूस्टर डोज लगाने का भी जो है हम सभी से अपील करते हैं, सबसे कहते हैं कि बूस्टर डोज लगाएं.
The message from the Narendra Modi government is, don't panic, be careful. India currently has the lowest number of infections since the pandemic began. Bureau Report, India Today.
India Today was the first to report that the Made in India nasal vaccine was ready for rollout. Today, our news break was confirmed. Bharat Biotech's Incovac is now available on the CoWIN platform. The needle-less vaccine is only available as a precautionary dose for now. Milan Sharma, our health correspondent, with the details.
Millions of infections and nearly 5,000 deaths every day. China is grappling with what is expected to be the biggest COVID outbreak the world has ever seen. And while the situation could get even worse for the country, India's COVID fight has got a big shot in the arm. Made in India, Bharat Biotech's nasal vaccine, Incovac, is ready. India's first needle-less vaccine will be available on the CoWIN platform from Friday. India Today was the first to break that the game-changer nasal vaccine was ready for rollout. The aim is to increase the precaution dose coverage. So what are the benefits of a nasal vaccine? There's no pain, no needles and no pricking in the arm. Trials have already been conducted and the drug controller too has greenlit the nasal vaccine. How will it be administered? Just 4 drops of the vaccine in each nostril. That's all. For now, it is only available as a precautionary dose and only for those above 18 years of age.
बड़ा गेम चेंजर वैक्सीन होगा, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ जो केवल 30% जो है लोगों को बूस्टर डोज मिला था, तो ये हेट्रोलोगस बूस्टर के तौर पे इस्तेमाल होगा। और इस वैक्सीन की सबसे बड़ी खासियत ये होगी कि ये ब्रॉड स्पेक्ट्रम इम्यूनिटी प्रोवाइड करेगा।
Experts say this one has minimal adverse effects.
It is a nose that is the entry point of the COVID or any other virus. So if intranasal vaccine become efficacious too, which at times it's lacking, so it can not only prevent the milder disease but also it can prevent the transmission, which none of the vaccine, whether you COVID or any influenza vaccine, is able to do that.
Incovac will first be available at private facilities, but it will also be made available across government vaccine centers soon.
The government at this moment is encouraging people to take their precaution dose. And of course, the price, we heard from the health ministry sources, will be made as affordable. But the private facilities, of course, could charge a surcharge or administration fee, while it will take some while for the vaccine to come to the government facilities, and then people can avail them from government vaccine centers as well. But it's a game changer. India made nasal vaccine for Indians as a precaution dose ahead of the looming China COVID scare. With Alok Das in New Delhi, Milan Sharma for India Today.
Now, there are two divergent perspectives on the government's response. One is it's good to be careful, better be forewarned and prepared rather than deal with a new mutant. The other is whether the government is overreacting, whether there's a need for the panic button to be pressed just at this moment when the number of cases in India seems minuscule. Joining me for perspective, Dr. Raman Ganga-Khetkar, former head of epidemiology at the Indian Council of Medical Research during the COVID pandemic. His was one of the faces we'd see often on TV, and I'm glad that you're back. Although I'd like to see you in happier circumstance, we're not again worried about what may happen next with the coronavirus. Dr. Ganga-Khetkar, welcome. I want to start by asking you about this current threat that seems to loom over India. China at this moment in shambles, from hospitals to ICUs to infections running amok in their population. They have a real challenge. India has been through that. When we're seeing what's happening in China, people are concerned, could some of these mutants potentially come to India and wreak havoc? Is the government right in being cautious, or do we not need to panic at this moment?
I don't see any reason for us to panic. No, that's one thing which I would definitely say. With respect to China, one must understand that they lifted their zero COVID strategy too sharply. Instead of a graded kind of lifting that we did for lockdowns per se, and the result is the entire vulnerable population which has received vaccine which is suspected to be having low efficacy per se, because they used a traditional adjuvant compared to what was even used for Covaxin, which was even one of the most novel adjuvant which gave better efficacy for Covaxin. The result is to find the entire population that was vulnerable is now facing a challenge of Omicron. Now, of these Omicron, the sublineages that are currently prevalent are from BA.5 sublineages, and the result is their R0 value, it is ranging between 15 to 18. Now, when you say 15 to 18, it spreads so rapidly that you will find number of infections that would occur every day would be huge. But the number of deaths, which otherwise were happening in lesser numbers, or hospitalizations that were occurring in lesser numbers in India, perhaps are not going to happen in China, mainly because their population size is very large. Everybody is on, as of now, is vulnerable. And what is also important is they have more old age population has also not been vaccinated completely. But this has evoked a visual imagery of China when those videos used to circulate in January or February of 2020, and that visual imagery comes back to Indian people, and the result is you tend to get worried whether we are going to face similar Delta-like wave in India. Is that likely to happen? Perhaps not. One must remember that for last 11 months, the Omicron virus is putting in different mutant chassis. The variants are coming up, new and newer ones, but they're still closely related to one another. The entire evolution is occurring in that BA.5 as of now. There is nothing that has happened beyond that.
Okay.
We call that as convergent evolution.
The one concern that people would have, who would be watching you at this time, Dr. Ganga Khetkar, is whether I need another booster. Now, I remember my last booster was in March this year. Do you think that given that 8-9 months would have passed since, there's need for another booster? Am I fine? And that, I suppose, is a question that many would have when they're watching you.
Now, I'm going to give my own personal opinion. I think one of the reasons why these sublineages are able to develop escape mutants is because of mutations that occur. But one of the most important things which we are also forgetting is if you want to stop this particular virus, you should have adequate levels of antibodies that should be present at the time when the virus is planning to enter in our own body, when we are exposed to it. Unfortunately, the antibody levels tend to drop, and therefore you find that these vaccines tend to protect you from hospitalization and death much better compared to infections, because after some time those levels will drop. Now, taking these boosters repeatedly is not going to be an answer for fourth dose, as my personal opinion. I think what is important is, people who may have had missed it, if you actually think in terms of taking even a precautionary dose, the nasal vaccine that is being talked of will be far more protective because it evokes mucosal immunity, since you are taking it from the nose, and you will find that the virus will find it difficult to enter inside the cells. Therefore, it may remain little protective. But for fourth dose, we also know if you take the same traditional vaccine that we have been receiving, one must remember that it was based on Wuhan virus. The virus was the original virus that had come up. It is not based over any other virus, and even the Americans have developed those vaccines based on the Wuhan virus as well as the BA.5 virus. They are also not going to remain protective because of escape mutants that are going to come.
Is there a need, Dr. Ganga Khetkar, to ban political rallies, big gatherings, the Bharat Jodo Yatra, questions about whether that should be suspended also in the context of people who might be traveling for the New Year, whether they should avoid crowds on Christmas and New Year's Eve?
It is very difficult to distinguish when there is a gathering who would be the vulnerable persons, what would be the proportion of people who would be vulnerable if they are going in those gatherings. And therefore, one has to inform them that doing these kinds of activities, coming together for social gatherings, you need to think of protecting yourself first. If you are older, if you have chronic morbidities, and you have not taken the precautionary dose, there could be a worry. How would anybody know what would be the proportion in any social gathering? So most of the guidelines that would emerge would always talk of protecting the population, because government is supposed to do the same.
Okay. And lastly, where could things go from here? At this moment, we have about 200 odd COVID cases in the country. Cases in China, data suggests there could be about 5,000 deaths, up to 5 lakh daily cases. Now, that's a very serious caseload. Where is the COVID count likely to go, in your estimate, for India?
For India, honestly talking, I don't see those numbers would increase dramatically. The reason is very simple. Even if there could be infections that may be occurring, because they have milder kind of manifestations, people like we saw in Omicron, people don't come forward to test, or they resort to going for home testing. And the result is you never get a true estimate of daily new infections. So essentially, to give any kind of an estimate is going to be something which could be challenged by the truth, which we will see every day.
Okay, we leave it over there. You're holding out a voice of optimism, saying that because we've been through the worst, while COVID cases may rise on a low base, but they won't, come anywhere close to the kind of scenes that we saw during the second wave or during the Omicron wave. Dr. Raman Gangakhedkar, for joining me on the Newstrack, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you. Death, distress and misery. Mismanagement writ large over China's handling of the COVID crisis. Even as the caseload surges, unwell health workers are handling patients and bodies, while the Chinese leadership is trying to play down the crisis. Estimates suggest that China is seeing over 1 million COVID cases every single day.
A live man being taken into a hearse for burial. Patients losing their mental balance. Patients quarreling with doctors. Inundated hospitals. Bodies lining up in morgues. The China story is that of horror, pain and mismanagement. Medical staff are overloaded to the extent that infected staff continue to work because of scarcity of personnel. Shortages of drugs and testing kits and logistical disruptions are upending daily life. The country spent big on quarantine and testing facilities over the past 3 years rather than bolstering hospitals and clinics and training medical staff.
Hospitals full of bodies, and all the crematory in Beijing are operating 24 hours now, but still cannot handle all the bodies.
Those under mandatory quarantine are showing signs of extreme distress. Inundated hospital rooms accommodate both patients and bodies. It is no secret that China has played down this crisis in a big way, hiding the actual numbers of cases and deaths from the entire world. The World Health Organization finally has spoken about it, although in a subtle fashion, asking China to provide information and data on hospitalizations and cases and deaths so that the World Health Body can step in and help the country.
In order to make a comprehensive risk assessment of the situation on the ground, WHO needs more detailed information on disease severity, hospital admissions, and requirements for ICU support. WHO is supporting China to focus its efforts on vaccinating people at the highest risk across the country, and we continue to offer our support for clinical care and protecting its health system.
Airfinity Limited, a London-based research firm that focuses on predictive health analysis, says that China is seeing about 5,000 deaths and 1 million cases every single day as it continues to play down the crisis. Experts agree.
It is very hard to make a judgment based on our experience in overseas and to judge about situations in China. So this made things much harder. So that's why we should really follow very closely about what's happening in China, because it was different and because it has such a huge population. And if really something goes very wrong there, it will again affect the entire world.
Without admission that the pandemic handling has been a disaster, the Chinese leadership continues to torment its people. First, it did with a zero COVID policy, and now with the sheer lack of preparedness that has brought the country to this mess. With Bureau Inputs, Sneha Murdani in Delhi for India Today.
BF7 is the Omicron variant that is behind the monstrous surge in China. But the variant has been around for months now, and the 4 cases that were detected in India were reported way back in September-October. Sneha Murdani busts the myth around this variant.
BF.7, the sublineage of Omicron, is behind this mess in China. You would have heard about this being a new coronavirus variant, but that is far from the truth. Here is all that you need to know about BF.7. Myth number 1. This is a new variant. Far from the truth. This is not a new variant, it is a strain. This is a sublineage of Omicron. It actually has emerged from BA.5. So first came Omicron, then BA.5, and then this sublineage, BA.7. The full name of the strain is BA.5, .2, .1, .7. Myth number 2. This has just been found in China. The fact is, this strain was identified 22 months ago. Myth number 3. This new strain is only confined to China. The fact is, it has made an entry into 91 countries already, including India. It was first seen in India in September early this year. Myth number 4. Only China has seen surges owing to this strain. The fact is, it has accounted for surges in the UK. BF.7 accounted for more than 5% of cases in the US and 7.26% of cases in the UK in October. Myth number 5. It could have spread in India. Disaster might just hit us. Fact is, while it is good to be prepared for the worst, the fact is that the mother of BF.7, its parent strain BA.5, is just present in 5% of samples sequenced. Most sublineages from India belong to BA.2 ancestry and not BA.5. As per the data from November, just about 2.5% of the positive samples were indicative of BA.5, like I said, the parent of BF.7. The most dominant strain right now in India continues to be the recombinant XBB. The larger concern really is that if infections continue in such a way, it will give an opportunity for the virus to evolve even further, to mutate even further. And that really is the big concern. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today.
Language becomes a casualty as netas spar over Belgavi. The Karnataka-Maharashtra border war degenerates into a political tu-tu-me-me. Details coming up on the other side.
भैया जी हमला। भैया जी 10 गोलियां ले ले।
गोलियां नहीं रख जा, गोली।
पर बाहर तो 10 लोग हैं।
10 हो या पूरी बस, अब तो बस 1 है तो डन है। इसको कोई वॉचो वॉच कराओ। जब वॉचो में मिले ढेर सारे ओटीटी ऐप्स एक ही प्लान में तो हर कोई बोलेगा वॉचो 1 है तो डन है।
वॉचो प्लान स्टार्टिंग एट जस्ट 42 रुपीज पर मंथ। आज ही सब्सक्राइब करें और पाएं सिलेक्ट प्लान्स पर 1 महीना कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री।
Not just Suhana Khan, Khushi Kapoor and Agastya. There will be other debutants as well who are expected to light up Bollywood in 2023. Topping the list is actor Shehnaz Gill, who after delivering performances in various Punjabi films has bagged a big one as she will be making her Hindi film debut alongside Salman Khan in Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan. Salman had been sharing glimpses of his look every now and then. The makers had also released a teaser of the actor in which he can be seen in a rugged look. Shehnaz, who shares a special bond with the superstar from her time in Big Boss, is elated to be a part of this project.
तो आपने फिल्म में एंट्री दे दी तो फिर मेरे को थोड़ा तो अब जलवा दिखाना पड़ेगा ना।
Shehnaz was last seen sharing screen space with Diljit Dosanjh and Sonam Bajwa in Hausla Rakh.
डिवोर्स के केस नाल ना ਬੱਚੇ ਦੀ ਕਸਟਡੀ ਵੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਕਰੋ।
ਫਾਦਰ ਕੱਲਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਂਭ ਸਕਦਾ ਜੀ।
ਸਾਂਭੂਗਾ ਤੇ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
The Karnataka Chief Minister has issued a sharp retort to Sanjay Raut's enter like China remark. Basavaraj Bommai has now branded the Uddhav Sena MP a Chinese agent. As the Maharashtra-Karnataka border war intensifies, the level of rhetoric is going down the tube.
A protest ingrained in language. Transport vandalized. Maharashtra and Karnataka have long claimed several territories along their boundaries on linguistic grounds since the 1960s. As the protracted dispute flared up this month on the streets and in the legislature, language itself became a casualty, ironically.
चाइना हम भी घुसेंगे। घुसने के लिए हमें किसी की परमिशन की ज़रूरत नहीं है, लेकिन हम मानते हैं ये देश एक है, ये मसला बातचीत से सुलझ सकता है।
Cannons have gone loose on both sides of the state border.
ಈ ಒಂದು ಒಕ್ಕೂಟ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ರಾಜ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಆಕ್ರಮಣವಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೇವೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಒಕ್ಕೂಟವನ್ನು ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡುವಂತ, ಈ ದೇಶದ ಏಕತೆ ಅಖಂಡತೆ ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡುವಂತ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗೆ ದೇಶದ್ರೋಹಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೆದು ಇನ್ನೇನು ಕರಿಬೇಕು ಸರ್? ಇದೇ ಥರ ಮಾತಾಡಿದರೆ ಕಾನೂನಾತ್ಮಕ ಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋಂಥ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ.
The tit for tat goes on unabated.
आपने कहा कि सोलापुर में घुसेंगे, महाराष्ट्र के सांगली में घुसेंगे, हमारे गांव महाराष्ट्र के गांव पर हम दावा करेंगे। ये बात तो चाइना जैसी हो गई ना। हमारे यहाँ घुसने की तो हम भी घुसेंगे बोले। जिस तरह से चाइना पूरे देश में घुस रहा है और आप भी महाराष्ट्र में घुसने की भाषा कर रहे हो, तो घुसना तो हमको भी आता है फिर।
An issue embedded in sentiments. The border row, however, has given the political establishment in both states a common cause to rally around. After the ruling and opposition parties in Maharashtra stood unified over their state's claims on Marathi-speaking areas in Karnataka. The Karnataka Assembly has unanimously resolved not to cede an inch of its territory to the other side. But the raw rhetoric threatens to undermine the issue in both states. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where we wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I wish you a Merry Christmas and I look forward to seeing you Monday evening at 8 p.m. Goodbye, good night, have a great weekend.
He is the sassy young face of Telangana's ruling party and son of the chief minister. And as a Neta who has become as much known for governance in the state as he is for the fiery feuds he has with his political rivals, here comes the latest chapter. And we should warn you, it involves a chappal. This time a vicious collision between K.T. Ramarao and the BJP state president. A man leading an aggressive campaign in the southern state ahead of next year's assembly election. KTR's anger is understandable given that his political rivals have persistently insisted on him taking a drug test, a theme that has caught on in the virality of Telangana politics. The BJP, sniffing traction in the attack, is doubling down on the drug test suggestion. While the political opposition in Telangana reserves its heaviest attacks for the Chief Minister KCR himself, the elder Neta's children have been choice targets in recent months and years. Last year, the Congress's popular state chief floated the idea of a white challenge in Telangana to test for drugs, cheekily inviting KTR to participate. This had triggered an eruption that saw even Rahul Gandhi dragged into the fracas. 2023 is going to be a ferocious southern year for Indian politics, with Karnataka in the first half and then Telangana towards the end of the year. Expect things to escalate rapidly till then, with chappals, white powders, slaps, punches, and everything in between.
This makeshift fever clinic has been set up at a stadium in downtown Beijing. Since starting operation on December the 14th, it provides medical services every day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Most of the medical workers here are from local public hospitals. Some are from Shandong province who came to support Beijing amid this wave of COVID-19 resurgence.
主要面对的对象呢，患者呢就是16岁到65岁之间的。
We mainly receive patients aged from 16 to 65 who suffer from respiratory tract infections. Those who have severe underlying diseases or need emergency treatment are suggested to go to hospitals if it's necessary, rather than coming to this simply equipped fever clinic.
As you can see, several tents have been put up at the stadium and they are used as a temporary registration office, consulting rooms and the pharmacy. It's freezing cold these days in Beijing, so setting up such a fever clinic at the stadium can shelter patients from waiting in long lines in wind.
It takes me only about 5 minutes to wait in line. I got fever several days ago. Now with the medication, I won't be worried.
My wife, my mother, and I all tested positive. We had fever. I think it might be easier to get cross-infection if I go to the hospital because there could be more people there. So I came here to be prescribed fever and coughing drugs.
Doctors say a week ago when they started work here, they treated patients until midnight. But now they're seeing fewer people.
最多的时候，我们一天呢能够接诊到800到850名患者的这个人。
When we first started operation, there were about 800 to 850 patients coming here every day. But in recent days, the number of people continues to decline. Yesterday, we received about 400 patients. I think this is a positive signal.
Local government says the supply and demand for medical care and drugs is still in a tight balance in Beijing amid the current seasonal influenza and COVID-19 infections. But the capital city is taking measures to increase its capacity to respond.
Latest data shows Beijing now has over 1,200 fever clinics, including those in hospitals and communities. So far, 8 districts in Beijing have transformed public facilities such as theaters and stadiums into makeshift fever clinics to help relieve the burden at hospitals. And all the community health service centers have also set up diagnosis areas for residents who show symptoms such as fever and coughing to seek medical help near their home. Huang Yue, CGTN, Beijing.
All political parties traveling from different parts.
Armed with facts,
Looking at political back.
she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold, and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.